Welcome back to the Bills Bunker, everybody. Today, we have a very special guest on the channel, and it is Donald Jones, member of the Buffalo Bills Legends community. How are you doing today, Donald?
I'm good, man. How you doing? Thank you for having me.
I'm great. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, I remember meeting you in Los Angeles before the Bills-Rams game a couple weeks back. So what is it like for you to actually continue being involved with the Bills Mafia community?
You know what? Like when you're a player up there, people always ask me, growing up, I was a Giants fan. So people are like, man, you're not a Bills fan. I'm like, bro, you don't understand. When you play in a city like Buffalo, it's like the city adopts you, and the Mafia is just, it's crazy, man. Like that movement started back in, my time, 2010, 2011, really 2010. Um, and it feels great to be a part of it. It feels great to go back up and still get love from the fans. I just was up there last week doing a camp, a Play 60 event. So it's always good to get back up there and just be a part of the fan base and the Mafia and be around the team.
And that actually brings up something that I've always kind of wondered. So when you say enter the league and play for a team, do you just stop becoming a fan of, do you stop your fanhood from your past?
You know what? I think it depends on like how long you play in a city. Some guys obviously bounce around from team to team, year to year. If you do that, you never really had a solid foundation in a certain city for a good amount of time where you feel like a part of it. I played obviously 3 years up in Buffalo, and then I came back and worked in the media for a couple of years. So for me, I feel like I'm a part of that fan base. And so regardless of who I cheered for growing up, Buffalo just seems like a second home to me.
That's awesome. It is
Mm-hmm.
awesome to see that. And I have a clip here from Los Angeles of you hyping up the crowd. So what's the energy like being up there? Just what's
Man,
going through your mind at that time?
there was a lot of people. There was a lot of people out there in LA. And it's crazy because unless you've been to an event like that away from Buffalo, you don't really understand. Like obviously, if you've been to a Bills game, you've been in that parking lot, you understand what the tailgate is like. But you hear on TV, you hear the commentators say, like, man, it's full of Bills fans here in the stadium. But you got to go to something like that away and really get a sense of how many people actually traveled out there or live out there that are actually Bills fans. Growing up in New Jersey, I'm used to people being obviously Giants, Jets, but Cowboys, Pittsburgh, San Fran is like the most common teams, outside of the local teams. But people really sleep on how there are Bills fans everywhere across the country and outside of the country, and they travel well, they show up, they party hard, and to be, a part of something like that, standing up there on the truck with thousands of Bills fans screaming with you, it's a great feeling.
And Bills Mafia does travel well. A fan base that's known for traveling well, and the rowdy fan base. So obviously right now the team's having a lot of success. They're Super Bowl contenders. When you were with the team in the midst of a 17-year playoff drought, was that fan base still traveling at that time like they are now?
You know what? Bills fans have always traveled well. They've always embraced us no matter what was going on. We were in we were a part of that 17-year drought, and they still cheered for us like they do now. Obviously now the city is hot for the last, 5 years, 6 years. I mean, you're winning the division every year. But back then the fans were still cheering the same way, and that's what you got to love about, Bills fans, Bills Mafia, the entire region is just how they've always showed up for the team, no matter what the record is.
And do you have any stories that you can share of you on your way entering into the stadium? What's some of the craziest things that you've seen?
You know what? Pulling in. I used to have a pickup truck. It was a dually, a Ford F-350 dually, and so when I would pull in, I had a train horn on my truck, and I would always beep the horn, and the fans would go crazy. But just walking through, even as a player is one thing. Seeing the fans show up to the away games and cheer for us, or possibly be at the airport, after a big win or something like that. But for me now, as a fan, as a former player and a fan, and even when I was, working up there in the media, I would actually get a chance to walk through the tailgate, and you see some things, and you're like, what is happening out here? You know what I mean? Like this is a whole different world up here, and so people won't understand it unless you're a part of it, unless you see it in person.
Absolutely, Bills Mafia. There's some wild stuff. The table breaks. Would you ever jump through a table?
Nah, that I seen. You know what? I just seen a crazy. It looked like a guy broke his neck, and I was like, "Oh man, I hope he was okay." My bones don't heal the same way, so I can't even risk it. That event actually out in LA was, one of the guys that put it together. Like he had a newborn baby, and he like put her through a cardboard box, just to mimic going through a table. And obviously that was a great thing. It was like her initiation into Bills Mafia. It's definitely become a thing, but everybody out there, just stay safe while you're doing it, please.
100%. You got to stay safe with it. Safety first.
Yeah, definitely.
Take me back to your first touchdown.
First touchdown, we were out in Cincinnati. We were getting beat up on, and we were down like 28-7 or something like that going into the half. And we called a screen play. It was a middle screen to me. We kind of executed it perfectly. Lineman got out in front of me. Fitz threw me the ball. I made a cut and just took off to the end zone. And I always had an idea of like a celebration that I would do once I scored my first touchdown, but I didn't do any of it. I don't even know what I did, honestly. Like I didn't know how to feel or anything like that. It was a great feeling. I'll never forget the first touchdown. You never can.
And do you still have the ball?
Yeah, I still have every football that I ever got in the league, every touchdown, any other game balls that I got. I still have them all.
Because there's some clips out there of players, with a historic touchdown and they toss away the ball and then they regret it after.
Nah, I wasn't tossing. If I played longer and scored a lot more touchdowns, maybe I would toss away the ball. The other thing was, I mean, you can like back when I was playing, I don't know what the rules are now. You can hand the ball to somebody, but if you threw it up into the stands, you got fined. So, I wanted to keep all my money.
Speaking of fines, did you ever get any fines from the NFL?
I did. I got fined for a high-low block, and I got fined once for being late to a meeting. That was from the Bills. It wasn't from the league. It was I was late. I was 1 minute late, and I got fined for it. Yeah,
That's tough. That's
yeah.
tough. Can't have a bad day in the NFL.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So tell me about what for you individually would be your biggest challenge on your way to getting into the NFL?
I mean, I went to a small school. I didn't do what I needed to do in high school grade wise, academically. So I had to go to junior college, and then I went to a smaller school from there. And so, it was just a tougher road coming from a smaller school. But I still went to the combine, still went to I played in the Senior Bowl. So I put myself in position to have a shot. But then, I was sick, with the health stuff. And so that's what put me into the NFL undrafted. And so now you got to make the team, which if you're not a first, second, or third round pick, you probably got to make the team anyway. But when you're undrafted, you really got to make the team, So it was a tough road, man, but I've enjoyed the journey.
So going into the NFL undrafted, uh, with like teammates and stuff, is obviously there's competition there. Is everybody supportive, or you got people kind of You're going head to head. What's that
Yeah, I
like?
mean, you're always going head to head, especially going in undrafted. Um, you're competing with yourself mentally. You're competing with the guys in your room because they're only going to keep a certain amount of receivers. As I was a receiver, you're only going to keep 5 or 6 of them, right? I mean, you come into camp, it might be 12, and so it's like it's a very interesting dynamic of, yeah, we all in this together, but at the same time, I'm competing with you. So we're in the meetings together. We buy candy and stuff for each other, like big bags of candy for the meeting rooms and all that stuff. With the mindset knowing I want to be here, and it's not that I don't want you to be here, but I want to be here. So one of us won't be here, and I'll never forget my second year when the team signed Brad Smith, and they paid him, and I had a conversation. This was like the day of training camp, and I was on my way down to Rochester, and I called Stevie, and I was like, "Yo, man, you see they just signed Brad," and I was like, "Somebody going home, and it ain't gonna be me," And so you got to have that mindset. Not that you want somebody else to get cut, but you got to go and earn your spot.
So, at the first time that you actually you knew that you made the team.
Mm-hmm.
So how much was that like a relief mentally, or were you just like you knew that you were gonna make that team?
I had a good feeling that I was going to make the team after like the second preseason game. I started to get word that I was probably going to make the team, but you still gotta compete, and you never know. They sign anybody any day. Somebody else, a big name, could have got cut somewhere else, and boom, they want to sign them, and all of a sudden now it's a numbers game. Um, but I was doing really well on special teams, and I knew they liked me there. So once I made the team, it was a great feeling. I had just had my first child, and so to know that, all right, I got a little money coming in, it was a sigh of relief. But at the same time, like that day, I spoke to the GM at the time, Buddy Nix, and then the assistant GM, Doug Whaley, and Doug said to me, "Hey, you made the team, but now I got to go find somebody that's cheaper that can do what you can do." And I'm like, "Man, I was undrafted. Like it don't really get any cheaper than this. So um, you never really feel comfortable, especially when you're undrafted. When you're a first round guy, you're going to be okay for a couple of years. Obviously, your bank account is a little bit different. When you're an undrafted guy, you're always going to play with a chip on your shoulder, and you always going to work harder than everybody else.
And do you think that can actually work out to be an edge for someone who's undrafted or drafted in the later round compared to someone who comes in earlier in the first round? Obviously, they have the luxury of maybe getting more wiggle room for that actual development, but for someone who's undrafted, they get that mental edge.
Yeah, I mean, when you come in undrafted, you just got to understand your role on the team. If you understand your role and you play your role well, you'll stick around. It's typically a special teams. You'll stick around long enough to develop and see yourself get on the field. In football, there's a 100% chance that guys are going to get hurt. You're going to get an opportunity at some point. You just got to make the most of that opportunity whenever it happens for you. And that's what happened for me. But statistics show there are a lot of later round guys and undrafted guys that play a lot longer in the league than your first round guys. There's a mentality that you got to have to stick around. And when you get drafted in the first round and you get some money, some guys don't work as hard. And the later round guys never feel comfortable, and so they just work every year, and they continuously find themselves, if not on your original team, you'll find yourself on a team somewhere.
What was your welcome to the NFL moment?
Um, I mean, our first preseason games, the first one we played Washington. The second one we played, I think it was up in Toronto, and we played Indianapolis, and that's Peyton Manning was still on the team, and so like, oh, that's Peyton Manning, and so that was like the first, wow, this is crazy. Like you're playing on the same field with Peyton Manning. So I would say that was probably the first one.
Weirdest autograph request you've ever gotten from a Bills fan?
I had a person that wanted me to sign they had a newborn, and they wanted me to like sign the baby's forehead, and I was like, no. with Sharpie, and I'm like, no, I can't do that. Like, I can sign the shirt, but I'm not signing the baby. So crazy stuff. Fans are crazy, especially Bills fans.
That is a strange one. I mean, I'd say that's definitely more strange than the baby through the table. The baby through the table, that's understandable, but
Right,
marker on the baby's head, maybe not.
right, exactly.
Tell the viewers more about obviously your career kind of came to a crashing halt there. Can you tell us about what that's like for you mentally?
Mentally, it was tough, man. You when you have to stop playing due to health reasons, it's just not a fun thing. It's not something that you can control. So it took me some time to get over it. It took me a couple of years to get back into football. Now everything is football through and through for me. But that initial shock of, man, this is what I've always done. This is what I've always wanted to do. You always want to make a lot of money doing it. Not being able to do that was it was a real tough pill to swallow for sure.
And I understand that you've gotten back into football coaching nowadays. So can you tell us why is that important to you?
You know what? I'm back home. I'm at the high school where I'm the head coach at the high school, my alma mater. I'm in the Hall of Fame, all of that good stuff. So it's important for me to give back my knowledge to the kids. It's not even just football. I was born and raised in the inner city environment, so I feel like football changed my life. It's taken me places I never could imagine, and so being able to give the knowledge to these kids and see them go off and play this game, have fun, and see them possibly go to college and change their lives for me is a great thing. If I can have a part in helping them get to that point, it's very fulfilling.
That's awesome. It's awesome to see former players helping out the next generation of
Mm-hmm.
NFL hopefuls, you could say.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody's NFL hopeful, but it's only 1% of us that get to make it.
Passing down that wisdom, though, it's massive, and it's something that those younger generations are always going to value, right?
Right, exactly.
So, for you, can Bills Mafia expect to see you at some more games coming up?
Yeah, man. This year I'm not sure. Hopefully I can get down to New Orleans for the Super Bowl. And I hope to see Bills Mafia fill that whole stadium down there. This week I can't make it up, but I trust me, I'll be sitting in front of a TV in front of one of my boys is a Ravens fan, so we're gonna sit there and we're gonna talk junk back and forth, and Josh, James Cook, all those boys come ready to play and beat up on Baltimore.
Bills versus Ravens. It's obviously a big matchup. What are you expecting to see from that game?
Man, it's gonna be a tough game. The Bills have to stop the run. We've had trouble stopping the run all year, and we've had trouble stopping Derrick Henry for like the last 5 years. Going back to his days in Tennessee, he always has big games against us. So this game is going to be tough. It's going to be a good game. If we can stop him behind the line of scrimmage, then we'll be fine. I think ultimately you got to stop Derrick Henry. You cannot allow him to just run the ball on you. If Lamar Jackson has a big game passing, then that's fine. But if you allow Derrick Henry to get going, then there's nothing we can do at that point but try to outscore him.
Yeah, I agree. You got to kind of take the ball out of Derrick Henry's hands, make Lamar Jackson maybe make some mistakes, and that's your best shot at winning that game. Let Josh Allen and let James cook, right?
Exactly.
You got a score prediction for the game?
Woo! 38-35, Buffalo.
Let's go. That's the right side to pick. A few more questions before we head out here. Wings in Buffalo. What would be your favorite spot?
I think for me, Anchor Bar is always the best. I try to find an Anchor Bar when I'm out there every time.
Red helmets or white helmets for the Bills?
I like alternate, so I'm gonna go red.
Day game, night game.
Night game all day. Very contradictory, right? Night game for me always. I love the night game. There's more people watching. It's just, the lights are on you. It's fun.
Home game or away game?
Home all day. Home all day. I mean, there's something to be said for Buffalo. There's something to be said about being in someone else's stadium and hear your team, like the crowd, when you score, just be louder than the home crowd. But there's nothing like playing a game in Buffalo.
What was your favorite road stadium that you played in?
Road stadium. Oh, man. Kansas City was always fun. Kansas City gets loud. It's cold. It's always fun beating up on them in Kansas City.
And I know you had a touchdown there on an NFL opening day. So that's pretty awesome.
I did, definitely.
Slot on the right. Fitzpatrick fires. Touchdown. And this time it's Donald Jones.
So hopefully the Bills will be in Kansas City next weekend. But that remains to be seen. Bills got to take care of business against the Baltimore Ravens here this week. I'll have plenty of preview content coming your way right here on the Bills Bunker. Donald Jones joined the channel for an interview today. Do you have any closing thoughts for Bills Mafia?
Show up and let's show out. You know what I mean? Go Bills.
Go Bills. Thank you so much for doing this, Donald.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me.